Hello everybody, this is Mr. Longo here, and in this video we are going to talk about different pairs of lines. So there are three different pairs that we're going to talk about in this video, and one pair of lines is called parallel. Now, just so you know, there can be more than one pair of parallel lines. I mean, if you look at this sheet of paper right now, every one of these blue horizontal lines is parallel to the blue line below it. Now, parallel means that they are lines that do not intersect and they are on the same plane. So this example would be on a sheet of paper. Now, we would write things like this. So if AB is parallel to CD, we would say line AB is parallel, which is just two vertical lines right next to each other, and then we would say CD. That's how we name a pair of parallel lines. But in terms of symbols, all you have to do is put arrows pointing in the same direction on the actual lines. So that would be how you mark two lines parallel. Now, if we had multiple sets of lines on a sheet of paper, sometimes you would put two. So that means those two lines would be parallel. Very similar to what tick marks do, but for parallel lines we use arrows. Okay? So again, parallel lines are lines that never intersect and are on the same plane. Same plane is key. Perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines, you probably have already heard, are two lines that intersect to make a right angle. Now again, you can have way more than just two lines. If you were to look over here on the left side of the piece of paper, every blue line is parallel, and then this red line is going to be perpendicular to every single one of them. So perpendicular are lines that create right angles. What the symbol looks like is just a box in the corner where the right angle is happening. Now, obviously there are four over here. We have another one on the left, lower left, bottom right. But you only need one at any intersection to show that all of them are. In terms of writing a statement, we would say that AB is perpendicular, and that's an upside down T, to line CD. So now you have two new symbols that you need to know. So two vertical lines like this is parallel, and an upside down T means perpendicular. All right? Now the last set of lines is very tricky to talk about on a piece of paper. But basically they are lines that do not intersect because they're on totally different planes. So regardless of where you're watching this video, if you are indoors, if you were to just look to the wall to your right, and if you were to draw a vertical line on that wall, and then if you were to look to the wall to your left and drew a horizontal line on that wall, you have two lines that are not perpendicular, or not parallel, but they're also not intersecting, and that's because they're not even on the same plane. Okay? So that's what skew lines are. Now there's no fancy symbol for that. We would just say AB is skew to line CD. No symbol to know for that. It's just because it's very tricky to talk about skew lines when you're in a two-dimensional piece of paper. All right? So if we were to look at it in terms of a three-dimensional prism, we can name different lines as well. So the first question says AB is parallel to what? So AB is this line right here. That's line AB. So what line would you consider parallel to AB? Now I'll give you a hint. There are three different choices. So go ahead and think about one and tell me what it would be. And if you said CD, you would be correct. So is HG. So is EF. Any line that's going front to back in this figure would be considered parallel. Okay? Any line in that figure would be considered parallel. Now we're going to move on to the next question. The next question says DH is perpendicular to what? So DH is right here. there are multiple lines that would be perpendicular to DH. Go ahead and think of one on your own. And if you said DC, you would be correct. So is DA, so is HG, so is HE. Any one of the lines that intersects the D or the H in this prism would be considered perpendicular. Okay? Now the last one we need to talk about is skew, and this is where it might help a little bit to understand what skew is by looking at this. This says AD, so we have AD, which is right here. Now that would be the top front plane intersection. So in order to pick a line that is skew to it, you would have to pick a line that's never going to touch because they're not even on the same planes. So we would not pick one on the front plane, and we would not pick one on the top. So what if we were to pick the bottom right? Those lines, if you were to extend them, would look like on a 2D piece of paper, like they would intersect, but in fact, if this was right in front of you in the room you're looking at, they would not, because this line is on the floor and this line is on the ceiling. Okay? So any one of those, you could have picked HG, you could have picked EF, you could have picked GC. There's a whole bunch of different ones you could have picked. But again, as long as you can name one, we're good to go. All right, everybody, those are some different pairs of lines. This is Longo, and I'm out. See you, bye.